YouTube, Twitter.
Where to Hunt podcast. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Dan Small, host of Outdoor Wisconsin, and I listen to Where to Hunt.
Nah, it's okay.
I'm Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bow Hunter. I listen to Where to Hunt podcast, and it's decent.
It's all right.
Hey, this is Bud Fisher with Catching Deers, and I think the Where to Hunt podcast is all right.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, I'm doing my Swedish dance moves here.
I know, I was just kind of doing some terrible robot moves. Hey, welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast. My name is Eric.
Greg Tubbs here.
And Greg Tubbs here.
I gotta work on my intro.
I gotta get you caught up.
On my intro.
And this is, I think, episode 120 something. Today is March 24th, 2020. We're knee deep in coronavirus. It's getting weird out there, folks. So we'll keep this going for a little bit. Hey, before we get started into the show and introducing our guests, we want to do our call out to backwoodsgrind.com. Head on over to backwoodsgrind.com and smell their website. I dare you.
I can smell it from here.
Yeah. Greg's it's not like scratch and sniff, but it's like click and sniff. Does that sound funny?
It does sound a little weird.
Okay. Entering code W2H podcast, you get 10% off. It's good stuff. Try it. The Camp House is my favorite. I just got my shipment yesterday, actually.
Yeah. Did you get mine too?
No, but I think maybe I gave them your address. I'm not sure. We'll have to follow up with that. They did ask about you, so.
Yeah.
Also,
well, that's good.
Gumleaf USA. Does anybody know what Gumleaf USA is? They're rubber boots. They are handmade from scratch. They're 85% natural rubber. They're super comfortable. They have a Vibram sole. Gumleafusa.com, code W2H2020, you get 10% off, which is a big deal because they're not cheap, but they are worth it, and they will last a lot longer than anything you're going to find at the big box stores. And then lastly, musket powder. Musketpowder.com. It's homemade, camp-tested, seasonal. You can enter in code W2H podcast, and you can buy one and get one. BOWGA. You know what's funny about the word BOWGA, Greg?
What's funny about it?
It sounds a lot like BOWGA.
Oh, really? You're gonna roll that in there? That's cheesy as hell.
Yeah, it was. What's up, guys?
You might as well bring them. You might as well bring them on, seeing as how you cheesed it up.
That's what I do. We got James and Jared with BOWGA Hunting on the line. I think at one point I knew you guys as Hot BOWGA. I don't know if that was like the actual name or not.
BOWGA.
Yeah, we were hot. Then we cooled off, so we're just regular.
That's all good.
The heat wore off.
Sometimes you need
now you're just lukewarm BOWGA.
We started hot and heavy, and then the magic faded. So
that's great. Well, I think there's a video that you guys did that I watched where you were like being interviewed and talking about it. And was it? Didn't you guys say it was like, well, it's kind of like hot yoga, but bow with your bow?
Yeah. We
and no yoga.
And no yoga. We don't. We're actually an anti-yoga podcast. So that's our stance on yoga. But my wife does yoga, and I like to shoot my bow, and so she decided to go do that. And she's like, I'm gonna go do yoga for a while. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go do BOWGA. And that was basically as much thought as we put into the name. So that's who we are.
That's good. I mean, the name never really matters, right? Like Nike is probably the weirdest name ever if you actually think about it. In fact, I think they wanted to call themselves I think they started as Blue Ribbon Sports, actually. And so it doesn't matter until you put something behind it. Yeah, you're right. You got it. Yep.
No, but the kind of the shitty thing is, though, everyone thinks we're from Georgia. The BOWGA.
What?
Like, oh, yeah, you guys are from Georgia, right? We're like, no, we're not.
Do you think that's like more of a compliment or a slant?
So we had Donnie Vincent on, and he said he was thankful once he found out that we weren't from Georgia.
Okay, there you have it.
Slam on Georgia. I'm like,
little bit.
dude, for all the Georgia listeners out, I love Georgia.
Did he have like a big relief, like a big sigh, like, oh, well, that's a relief?
It went pretty much like, oh, and by the way, I'm very thankful you guys are from Michigan and not Georgia. And we actually have that sound clip that we can actually prove that.
You got to throw that in your intro if you got one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, why don't you guys introduce yourselves so we know who's talking when you're talking, and just tell us a little bit about BOWGA, what you guys are up to, where you're from, all that good stuff. We know you're not from Georgia.
Go ahead, Jimmer.
Yeah, so James, I'm occasionally referred to as Jimmer, and if you've ever seen Escanaba in the Moonlight, you'll know the reference. Which I'm not. I feel like I'm not like that character at all. Like some insane youper that is half drunk all the time, and you can't understand what he's saying. So we're based actually in Michigan, West Michigan, so not too far away from you guys, Wisconsin. Although we did a little hunting there this year. Jared did all right. I saw some deer. So we're based here, run a podcast, a BOWGA Hunting podcast, some social media pages, blogs and stuff. And that's who we are. Jared, you go.
Well, hey, I'm Jared. I actually live about 30 minutes away from James on the south side of Grand Rapids. We've been hunting together for a long time. And one day James comes to me and says, hey, man, you want to start a podcast? We know enough about hunting. I think we could sit on a couch once in a while and just talk about some topics. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So that started probably about, 3 years ago now? We've been doing it.
Oh, shit, 3 years ago, huh? Wow.
Yeah. The podcast is about, so we started with, we decided we're like, let's just make an Instagram page. We can, like, every time we go hunting, we can put our pictures there, and like, we'll just have a place to, like, remember our big adventures. And my brother's like, you guys got to try to get followers and just see, post content and, like, offer help to other people rather than just putting pictures out. So we did that for probably, I don't know, close to a year before we did and then the podcast. And then he's like, you guys got to do a podcast now. And I fought against that for a long time. I'm like, there's no way, no one wants to listen to me or Jared.
That's right. Tom did mention it first, didn't he?
Yeah, he pushed for it for a while.
On the phone anyway.
Yeah, and so he finally convinced us to do it. And then we've been doing it. We started bi-weekly just because we weren't sure if anybody would listen and if we'd have stuff to talk about, and kind of moved to a weekly podcast deal. So.
And it's like your favorite thing ever now that you guys are doing it. Do you feel like that was a really great choice? Hindsight?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's an excuse to spend at least an hour a week talking about hunting, and even more importantly, there's a ton of people on social media that are be like, they'll kind of put themselves out there as experts. And I'd say Jared and I have hunted a lot, but I would by no means call us experts. But the beauty of the podcast is we can get guys on that we never would have a chance to talk to or pick their brain, in any other format. So the cool thing about a podcast is I feel like no one says no when you ask them to be a guest. So you get like this awesome chance to, what does Fred Eichler think about, X hunting? Or, we were talking to Mark Kenyon, what's his approach to Y? And like I said, that's just not something that you could just call them up for the most part and ask them without something like a podcast.
Yeah, I think that's valid. And it's definitely kind of come mainstream now. It seems like if it hasn't, it's definitely on its way. I started 7 years ago, and then, Greg joined probably the worst day of the podcast ever. But when did you come on board, Greg? When was that, September?
The day that everything shit the bed. Yeah, it was in September.
So yeah, we've been at it.
I believe right before bow season started.
It's crazy.
Yep.
But it's a ton of fun, right? Like, it does give you that kind of, I don't want to call it excuse, but reason to reach out to people. And you're right. So far, like, people really don't say no. And then you get to make friends along the way. Like, we've actually, Greg and I met because of the podcast, actually. So it's kind of like, some real friendships have actually blossomed out of it, and some good hunting buddies, and you learn a shit ton. You really do.
Yeah. Jared, would you say our relationship has really been deepened because of the
Between us?
podcast? I would say so.
There's things I know now that will
can't unlearn.
remain. Yeah. Right, Steve.
And just for the listeners, Jared and I typically we don't podcast separately. I mean, it's one of the things we do. But we're in Michigan right now. We are locked down. We are find a shelter, stay in the shelter, something with a shelter. We can't leave our house.
Shelter in place.
Shelter in place.
But I got a note. I can travel around for work.
Why? What do you think? You're better than me?
All that hunting. But no, our work is actually considered an essential business because we procure and manufacture products that'll help with like sanitation and cleaning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
That's
I've got
good
a
to
letter
go.
that says I can travel, so
Must be nice.
Suck it, Trebek.
But what I managed to do before this whole shelter in place was I exposed Jared. So I've got COVID right now, and I actually exposed Jared to it. So technically, he should be sheltering in place either way. That's what a good co-host does.
Huge dick move. It was last week we started recording, and then the next day he calls me out and goes, "Oh, sorry, my wife's got COVID. It's confirmed." I'm like, "Dude, I was just with you last night." So now I gotta tell everyone at work, and I gotta go home, and now I'm stuck at home. Thank you, James.
I bet your wife loves it. Lori's just probably thrilled.
She is so thrilled. I didn't tell her that you had it Tuesday night.
I didn't know. See, the thing is, I didn't know, and then Lori got it, and now I got a fever now and stuff. But like I was telling you guys ahead of time, that has not stopped me from podcasting or shooting my bow, which is really what it's all about.
Well, here we are, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about, like, you guys were in Wisconsin last fall, I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, what's your approach? Like, are you guys doing out-of-state hunts frequently? Was that kind of on a whim? Are you guys DIY? Like, what's your approach to hunting? Are you guys public land junkies, so to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess recently, we've really always been public land hunters, just because. I guess James up to your cottage, there's some private land that we hunted on, but it butted right up against state land. But kind of just recently, throughout the past years, we've really been exploring the public lands and getting out and doing the DIY, packing out a tent, and just kind of breaking off from there. But now we really have started pushing out to the out-of-state hunts, which we did do this past fall over in Wisconsin, which was a lot of fun. We're going to tell where we went.
Yeah, okay. Are we going to go back there?
I mean, you can just say Northwoods or Driftless area, or you don't have to tell us exactly.
No. I want the coordinates. I think you guys did good.
You would.
It was
you
okay.
would.
Yeah. No, we hit up the Driftless area.
Yep.
I actually can't even remember the name of it off the top of my head right now. Anyway, so.
Why can't I either?
I got Jim Edgar, but that's in Illinois, so I can't remember.
Well,
So anyways, Lafarge. Right by Lafarge.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know where that is, Greg?
Yep.
Damn it.
Oh, I know.
God, you can never stump this guy. He just always knows something.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
That was actually our second location, though. That was our backup.
Yeah, you guys had such bad flooding. We had, what was the first one was there's on the south side of the southwest side of the state. We found all these kind of like islandish things. Like you can camp and you can kind of take a kayak in and kind of hunt along the river down there. And
sure.
It was so flooded.
The Kickapoo River was pretty blown out. So that goes past Wildcat Mountain and all that stuff. So that was probably the plan B, is somewhere around the Pooh.
Yeah, it was. It was the Pooh and Wildcat Mountain we were looking at too.
Not to be confused with Peekaboo.
A guy smoked a monster fuck from what the internet forums say, somewhere in the Wildcat Mountain area.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So how did you guys do that? Like, did you know someone here and you're like, hey, let's sync up, and then you kind of like work backwards from that, or did you kind of figure it out on your own? How did you kind of decide you were going to go to Wisconsin?
Yeah. Okay. So I spent I spent a long time thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was start with states. I wanted to stay in an interesting area. And I just kind of always thought that, like, the Driftwood area is just cool. Not ever touched by glaciers, big bucks, not too far away. And so that kind of got us, focused in at least there. But really, even before then, what I did was I looked up statistics and tried to find where, best buck to doe ratio for harvest, best, numbers of deer taken per hunter, and then lowest hunter density as well. And it took a long time, but that's how I narrowed it down to that area. And then Jared and I, for months, we're looking at different spots and doing tons of aerial scouting, topographical maps, all that kind of stuff. That was huge for us, and I think that was how we narrowed it down, just using a lot of online maps, because we weren't able to go out there ahead of time. We went in virtually blind, other than the maps.
And how'd you guys do? I mean, it sounds like obviously you had fun, from what I had gathered when you guys were here. You did a good job of, like, going live and showing kind of the trip and the journey and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, Jared, how'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, we had a ton of fun, but the best part is we brought along a guy, one of a video guy, to film one of us. We actually brought along two, one of which knew what he was doing. The other one was fairly new to hunting. So bringing him on an out-of-state trip was a lot of fun, because there was stuff we had to introduce to him kind of on the fly.
Right. Well, and we're out in the teepee, and you get there, it was 40 degrees, and halfway through the week it was 4 degrees. And so it's just funny to see Jordan, this guy who had never hunted before. I feel like he got the full. And not only did he get the cold, camping out, he got the cold weather, the snow. He got the drag out. He got that. We called it the death march at the end, trying to drag Jared's buck out. I mean, I thought he got the whole experience. I was pretty proud of that, actually.
That's that makes a really good video, though. All of that stuff all kind of combined in one. You might think you've done 5 hunting trips at that rate. That's what we love about our weather here in Wisconsin. It just changes every 2 minutes.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that was a crazy experience.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so we did the aerial scouting, and what Jared especially is good at is just boots in the ground reading sign. And so we did a lot of that once we got there.
And it paid off. What are you looking for when you got boots on the ground? What kind of things I learned something new last year, actually, and I'm the okayest hunter, so I can use that as a way to shield any flack that people give me as a guy that's just learning. But for the first time ever, I heard hunt the turd. That was new to me last year. That was the newest thing I learned. Hunt the turd.
Hunt the turd. What are you referring to?
If you find a big buck turd and it's fresh,
I see. Okay. Yeah, literally hunt the turd.
But I didn't know. I was like, wait, that's a buck turd? I honestly, that was new information last season. So it's I don't know. Obviously, I look for other transition lines and food and water sources and bedding and, rub lines. And you look for all this other stuff, the common stuff. And I was like, well, this is a new one. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess for my approach is everyone can go on the map and look at exactly what you just talked about. You can look at those transition lines. You can look at elevation. You can find these sweet spots, and you're going to go right there. But when you get there and you don't find any signs, then what do you do? So at that point, I guess what we were able to do is, you pick out multiple sites, and you go and check those spots, and you want to hunt the fresh sign, just like you were saying, hunt the turd. So there were spots that I wanted to go and hunt, but once I got there, it looked completely different than what I thought it was going to be. And there was no sign around there. You look on deer trails, and it had rain maybe a few days ago, because they're constantly checking the weather. So there should be at least some deer moving through here, and there weren't. So the ability to move from one spot to the other and having that conscious decision on hey, even though I know I want to hunt here, it looks beautiful. It's the sun's coming up. I can just see a buck coming over that hill. Just don't hunt there. You got to just tell yourself in your head, hunt the sign.
I fall victim to that a lot. I'm actually one of those idiots that does that. It's only paid off like once. So, and it sounds like you're mobile then. What's your setup look like?
So this year, go ahead.
No, Jared, you do it. You're killing it. Great job, by the way. I love it so
far. Can you
far.
hear it in my voice?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So this year we actually tried out tree saddles for the first time, and I think we're in love. It's a new honey.
Which one are you guys rocking? Are you affiliated with anybody, or are you just trying agnostically?
We started agnostic, and we actually just are now affiliated with Trophyline. So they make awesome stuff. I'm excited for that. But yeah, like Jared said, I mean, last year was kind of our first foray into the saddle game. But just to back up, I mean, Jared and I have been, into mobile hunting forever. And actually, probably if we had a hunting philosophy, it's just be very flexible. And so, we'll both go out with hunting saddle stuff, but we'll also have ground blind stuff with us as well. So if you're walking out and you just see a great spot, you can just post up right there. You're not too keyed in. Sorry, Jared, keep going.
No, I just lost it. Oh yeah, saddle hunting. So yeah, we've got our saddle. We've each got our own set of climbing sticks. We're not really affiliated with anybody. I've got Lone Wolf. James has Hawk Helium. And we're really just heading out, strapping those sticks to our packs and finding, you have those spots picked out on your map and you're just finding a tree where you can set up in. If you don't like it, then we most of the time carry a camo netting of some type and you can just post up on the ground. So it's really about having the options for the unknown, because obviously, like we were saying, we can't travel to Wisconsin or the out of state that we plan to hunt to scout. So really, we're going in blind, other than the knowledge that we have from these aerial maps. So it's really having the tool set to be successful, just to carry it all in your pack.
And here's this reminded me a BOWGA tip, and we usually reserve these only for our podcast, but I got a BOWGA tip for you guys. When you're looking at a new area, right? What I have started to do is look for property that is available to lease in that area for hunting purposes. Like there's these hunting lease websites, right? And I try to find them nearby, and then I look through their trail camera pictures on their website, on the leasing website. And actually, that's helped us find little good spots too, because people are like bragging about their hunting lease, and it's like, well, there's public land right there. So, like I said, just a little BOWGA tip for you.
Nice.
That's a pretty sweet little tip.
I got. I think there's a caller on the line, so we're just gonna. Oh, we're gonna bring. Oh, we just lost. Never mind. We just lost.
I've never had a caller. I was so excited. I was thrilled.
I told him we'd take calls at 7:30, and then I saw him sitting there, so I was gonna bring him in. Then I think he just missed my message, so they'll try again. And then I'll just hit that button to interrupt everybody, so we can bring a call and answer some questions. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
One of the challenges of a live broadcast when you take calls.
Oh yeah, it's actually a great idea. It's really, really fun. But just to piggyback off what Jared was saying, I mean, so the mobile setup is key, and we found is, and we've tinkered with it forever. You need a light stand forever. We use climbers and stuff, and or I was exclusively on the ground just because climbers were such a pain to me. And you need a good pack. Like the pack is kind of like your hub for everything. So at least for us, it's like you need a good frame pack, something that can expand to haul out meat if you're back there, which we've had to do often, or can carry your stand or whatever, but can compress down small. And so this year we're using these. Seek Outside just came out with these short tail packs that I've been loving so far. Excited to get it out in the tree, but like I said, it starts with the pack, and then you start kind of adding things on. So tree steps or saddles or ground blind stuff, and you got your knife and your stuff out there as well. So, but it's a lot of tinkering and messing and trying to figure out kind of what fits your style, and everybody's is different.
Well, this is the time of year to tweak around and mess with that stuff anyway.
right, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you want to go.
We just got,
Oh, go ahead.
got
Go ahead,
those
guys.
new packs in. Yeah, we just got those new packs in, and James was telling me all, because he got his first, because most of the stuff is sent to his house, and then it somehow just trickles back down to me. Which
I get all good.
But yeah, I pretty much took that new pack and just broke it all the way down to the frame, and then started figuring out, how can I put my sticks in here comfortably, so they're not moving around. How can I put item A on here so that it's not, dinging up against the posts or whatnot. So it's actually a lot of fun to break down an item like that, because then you can learn so much more about it too. Like, I had no idea some of the configurations I could put on it, and now it's it's all locked in and I'm ready to go. Took it out on a 4-day, or not a 4-day.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, a 4-hour.
Like Gilligan's Island, a 4-hour tour, huh?
Yeah.
So what was that brand again for that pack that you stripped down? What was it called?
Short tail.
Short tail?
Yeah, it's new. Dude, I mean, we've tried, I don't know how many packs. I mean, everything from like a QU to Mr. Ranch to, I've tried them all. And I think this is my new favorite. Again, I haven't taken it out yet, but so far it's just, I mean, you want something that hauls weight really well, but I was telling Jared the other day, like, you're only usually hauling weight out a couple times in the year, and it's not like, a whitetail is like is the same thing as an elk. And so it's important, and obviously, like, Seek Outside does a great job with that. But it's like, you need a pack that just works, that has stuff that's easy to get to, that it just kind of fits your style. And so everybody's different. It's been working well for us.
Yeah, no, Greg, you were showing me this late season bow, kind of how to stack the sticks and how like certain stands come like as a system, and I don't know, like I've done it in the past before, but it's just protruding so far out from your back that you feel like a giant tortoise.
I just messed around in the garage one day and just kind of figured out a different way to lay them, and get the lone wolf sticks to stack together, and then flatten them to the tree stand platform and bungee strap them in. We're currently not going on any big trips where I'm packing in 8 miles or whatever to set up a tree stand. It's only a couple miles, if that, and it's manageable. And then, we're allowed to quarter our deer here, but we're only allowed to quarter them a certain amount. We still got to take the rib cage and the spinal cord, and and all that's got to come with. So
we know that all.
Yeah, we do know that. We had a drag. We quartered it because Jared shot Jared shoots his deer. So, you want to tell it?
I'm just gonna tell the story. I'm just gonna jump right in.
Wait. Are you on on speakerphone right now?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
It
does. So I was gonna say, if you are, just put up to the mic and get real close to it so we can hear it good.
How's that? A little bit better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, this was probably after the first hunt. I had this great idea of floating this river when we were in Wisconsin. We were in an inflatable canoe, and I was like, oh yeah, just drop us off here. We'll meet you down at this other launching point, and it should only take like an hour or so. So I have my bow. I don't have a pack. I don't have water. I don't have anything. I'm like, it's only going to take an hour. So Mark and I hop in the canoe and we start floating down, and it takes 2 hours to get maybe a quarter of the way. And we're like, shit. So it's starting, to get around that time where we need to get out in a tree. So Mark and I decided to get out and go up this ravine, not a ravine, but a steep hill, we'll call it. And we get up there and we just start walking around, and we don't really find anything that we like. So we're like, well, let's just set back down low by the river. We'll find a good spot, and we'll just glass and get some intel. So we'll get down there. We've been hiking for a little while. We're just tired. And Mark lays down, actually starts napping. And after a couple minutes, I start seeing deer charge down this ravine we were sitting at. And those deer actually came around to us at about maybe 10 yards, Jim?
I think you were less than 10. I mean, you walked me through, I think it was
under. I think it was single digits.
It was close, and we're on the ground. And so there's 2 bucks chasing this hot doe, and they were starting to run straight at me. The doe kind of stopped, and then kind of peeled off in front of me at like a little trot, and that's when I drew back. And while the buck was trotting along, I smoked him probably at 8-10 yards, and he landed right by the river, died right there. So it was sweet. We're just gonna pop him in the canoe, and we'll head back to camp and surprise everybody. So I shuttle Mark across the river and come back to pick up the buck. And when I pick him up and put him on the canoe, his antler pops a hole in the canoe.
No.
So now,
The
Mark's on the other
thickens.
side. I let off some extravagant words, and he's like, "What? Tell me what happened. What's going on?" And by this time, it's getting dark. We don't have a flashlight. We don't have anything. And I'm like, "Dude, I just popped a hole in this canoe."
Like a finger size hole.
Yeah, it was big.
That's how you get your Gorilla Tape with you out there either, you know?
Oh, of course, everything. So there was probably a good 30 seconds of silence that none of us said anything. He's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" So I left the buck on that side, quick paddled across with enough air to get over there. And we went back up to camp, told everyone what happened. We all walked back down. We're thinking, oh, maybe we can wade across and, we can drag them all through the water. But it was just way too deep. So we're like, oh, well, maybe there's going to be a patch kit back in town. So we start walking back to camp, and James called his wife and told her the situation we were in. And he's like, yeah, we're just going to probably head back into town and try to find a patch kit. And she goes, oh, well, did you check the back of the seats? There's a patch kit in there. She's like, oh. And this was, mind you, like we had walked maybe a mile away from the river. So now we're thinking, okay, we can walk back to the canoe and try to patch it right now, or maybe just get them in the morning. So while we were contemplating that, all of a sudden, like the coyotes just started striking up everywhere. We're like, okay, we've got to go get this buck somehow. So that's when we pulled up our aerial map and we're like, okay, if we drive around, we can come in through the back way on the other side of the river and we can get them. So we got into the truck and parked at probably 11:30. And we're trekking through the woods. We have no idea where we're going other than checking our phone and GPS to figure out, where we're going. I had an idea of where I shot him because I had marked it. We finally get over there and, we found the buck, gutted him out. And then, like you were saying, because it was a CWD zone, we've got to drag the spine and ribcage out. So 2 guys each have a quarter in each hand, and then 2 other guys were dragging a legless buck all the way back. And we probably got back to camp at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, that was, what you forgot to mention though, is that for part of it, we are trying to get the boat out, and we're like, how do we get the boat? I'm like, we have to get the boat out of here. How do we get it out? And so for a while, we're like, we're trying to like carry it through the woods, and it is just, that thing is heavy. It's like dead weight.
Bowing in the middle, it's dragging, hitting everything.
Oh, so we were pissed about that, and for a minute we're like, well, before we get the boat, let's see if we can ford the river. If you guys have ever played Oregon Trail, let's just walk across the river. Yeah. It doesn't look too deep. So Jared, I bring waders out with me. I had them in my backpack, and Jared gets out there, and we're like, dude, you're going to die. Like, you will get swept away. It's the temperatures. That's right before the temperature dropped super high, super low. And so like, yeah. So just throw that in there. And there was a period of time where we all just laid down. We're like, screw it. We quit. We're just laying down for a while.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
That's a pretty epic one, guys. That's the shit you're never going to forget. You can tell that story till you're old in the nursing home.
I know.
Like, the sound you'll never forget.
Son of a.
Is that the antler? What the fuck?
No, it was like I'm trying to pick up the whole buck by myself, which I think I'm stronger than what I am. So I'm picking them up, like, I throw them in, just let them flop on, and also I'm bang, and then I'm like, ah, shit.
It's like the moment you
Quick,
lock
put
your
my thumb
keys,
on it.
you lock yourself out of your house, you shut the door, you're like, I shouldn't have done that, right? It's like the second it happens, you instant regret.
Instant regret. That describes most of Jared's time in high school.
I instantly regret talking to that girl.
Yeah, instant regret. Oh, there comes instant regret.
Ooh, that made a mistake.
So just for you guys' reference, Jared and I go back pre-high school even. We've been hunting partners forever. So we've built up some hunting experiences, and we know each other's style and tendencies pretty well, better than I would say probably most people doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So did you guys get that stuff filmed? Because you said you had a couple camera guys with you.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's filmed.
Is it produced anywhere yet, or are we gonna like really be excited to watch that when that comes out?
Well, and I don't want to hype too much of Mark's work ahead of time, but it's going to be the best thing you've ever seen in your entire life. It's up there with Titanic. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, you'll never let go. Exactly.
Exactly.
To the boat.
We used some of the footage for a commercial we made for Sturka Optics. I think it's on our Instagram TV and our
I
YouTube.
saw that.
But
it's on your YouTube.
we're gonna. And we're taking actually Jared's kill shot is on that video, but we're taking the rest of that footage and some that we're kind of building up over the next couple of years, maybe even to make something a bit bigger than that. And so we're excited to do that. All about finding kind of adventure and stuff. So yeah, excited for that. But yeah, we definitely got it on film. And yeah, like I said, he's not here, but Mark, he's actually stuck in the UP right now. But Mark is a phenomenal cameraman. We're just super lucky to have a guy like that with us.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I think I've like commented on some of your photos thinking you guys took it and you had tagged him like, no, it comes from this guy here. I'm like, yeah, it's really impressive. I've been following you guys since you came to Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's the third member of our trio, and yeah, he's just awesome. So
it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We don't have Greg. You got some video stuff. You got the fancy cameras.
Yeah, but I don't honestly. There's plenty of times where they just get left in the truck because I don't feel like messing with it. I just recently picked up a decent camera arm. Everything else was. I got the modern Assassin, the Assassin Reach.
Oh yeah, how is that?
There's some things I would like to change about it, which I'm probably going to tweak with, the strap being one of them. Okay. The arm itself is good. It's going to hold the DSLR camera. I'm shooting a Sony AX100 right now, which is a video camera. It's a little bit better than a handy cam. And that's got some weight to it, but it will hold my Canon T3i with a bigger lens on it, 200 millimeter lens. So it doesn't do bad. But I'm not real crazy about the strap system. Once it's on the tree, it's not moving. It definitely holds the weight of the camera pretty well. Yeah, it is a big deal. It's a pretty compact unit. Lone Wolf Custom Gear just came out with one that's extremely compact. But I like this one. This one's decent.
Yeah, what are the other options? Like fourth arm or fourth arrow, whatever it is. I know they got one. But
Fourth arrow's one.
Fourth arrow.
That's what we use.
Muddy's made one for years. Lone Wolf used to make one years ago. The Hunting Beast, I think he still makes one if you ask him to. So everybody's got their little version of it. I think one of the earlier ones was the Lone Wolf one. So it's got a couple of interesting features about it. But yeah, there's enough stuff out there for guys to select and run with.
Yeah, for sure. Jared and I aren't too experienced with the filming that Mark is, and so he started with that Muddy, but it sounds like he's really a big fan of the fourth arrow. Actually, those guys are West Michigan guys too, so
it's always cool when you can find people in your kind of geo range, right, where you can actually like meet people, talk to them, see them at your local trade shows and things like that. It makes it a little bit nicer.
Yeah, like we were talking about before. just, and you guys, I'm sure have this too in Wisconsin, but in Michigan, everybody hunts, and so many people come, from our area. So we're just very. I mean, it's actually a blessing and a curse. But the blessing, obviously, is you just have access to a bunch of people. But at the same time, those guys are always in the woods when you're trying to find a good untapped spot, on state land or public land or whatever.
Yeah, that's valid. Well, Greg, I feel like I want to give you. Why don't you ask some questions?
You asked them all already.
I know.
Jerk.
That's what I do. That's what I wanted you to do. I'm like, you ask some questions. Greg's like, I wouldn't say you're a gear junkie, but you are definitely significantly more knowledgeable about the tactics and the gear. And like you just listed off this, the Canon T3i, 200 millimeter, like I used to shoot that shit and I don't even know what lens I just say, oh, it's a lens. I would slap it on there and I would research when I got it, but then I forget everything once I'm done figuring it out. I'm like that with hunting too. Like I don't know anything about the arrows, although they're vector, I can tell you that now, but I just,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, I get a little Rain Man with the stuff, but I'm not, I don't know as much as some guys. I know enough about mobile hunting gear because I've been using mobile hunting gear for some time now, mobile standing sticks. I've played with all different kinds of ways of how to stack them, how to carry them, how to silence them, all that fun stuff.
Have you tried those climbing? What are those climbing step things? You ratchet around a tree, you put it in place, and they come like each individual step.
Oh, I used to rock those in the rope version.
The step ladder, or I think Wild Edge Inc. makes those.
Yeah,
yes, those are pretty interesting too. I've not messed with one of those. I have a friend that's got some, and they're pretty darn stable. They still weigh a ton. You can put them in a pack. They have a pretty strong rope on them that you have to tie a certain way around them. But, I mean, they work. And if you're a saddle hunter, I mean, you can put a ring of those things around a tree really nicely. And you don't have to worry about carrying another platform off there, and maybe you're not even doing that right now. Maybe you're just, you're taking one of your tree steps and or one of your sticks and you're standing on it. I don't know. And there's so many different ways of doing it.
Does that. Yeah, I know a guy who does that. Stands on a stick. It just seems like I don't know. What Jared and I have been using, and it's worked fairly well. Although I kind of would like to try a platform, one of those little saddle platforms. But we did the ring of steps this year. Which took some getting used to, and like for a while, I think I had too many of the steps on the ratchet, and it would slip a ton. But it does let you go.
What were you using?
Silent approach.
Okay. The silent approach. And those are multiple steps on one ratchet strap, basically.
Yeah. Plastic. These kind of like I think they're plastic. Yeah. I hockey taped them all. I got it pretty quiet actually. It was pretty cool, but I don't know. Like I said, I actually think I would just prefer just a platform, just because it's probably easier.
Sure.
I mean, but I do like those climbing steps you're talking about, those Wild Edge. That's intriguing, definitely to me.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really cool option. I mean, the Lone Wolf custom gear stuff's neat, but if you don't have it in your budget, if you'd rather take that money and go buy an out-of-state tag, that makes more sense to me, I guess. Buy the experience rather than having the stuff and just sitting on it and getting it to use it a couple times.
I got to do a saddle hunt this last season with Anthony Heller. He does the tip of the week now with Deer Vein, and he...
Yeah, we met him in Wisconsin this year. We hunted with him a little bit.
He's a good dude. He's a knowledgeable guy. He let me hunt out of the tethered one, and then he used the arrow hunter. I think I might be wrong, but he just used climbing sticks, and then that was it. Like I had one climbing stick to perch on. The one thing I wish I would have had if I would have known, it was a really great experience. I actually fell in love with it. I'm probably going to go that route for many reasons that we don't have to unpack here. We did a whole episode on it, but I think knee pads would be a big one. Just getting some sort of knee pad.
Knee pads.
Yeah.
Yep, I do. Jared, do you use the knee pads? I don't remember.
No, I don't. I'm just a leaner. I'll just stand up the whole time, just kind of fishing around.
Greg, you were gonna say something else, and of course I cut you off because that's what I do.
No, that's fine. I'm used to it. It's all good. I don't take offense to it anymore.
Good to know you did. Never said anything. Piece of shit.
No, I never did. Just had to throw that in there to be kind of a jerk because I can. So you're using that stuff for saddle hunting. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to carry a big platform out, I mean, it almost seems like if you're going to go that far, maybe you just should hunt off of a tree stand. But then again, it might depend on how long you're going to be up there too. You know, if it's just a couple hour hunt after work or something, platform's not necessary. But if you got one good solid step to step on at the top, really all you need.
But
I've never saddle hunted.
Yeah, those platforms that they use are like, I'm trying to think of the size of a book. They're not like maybe a big book, like a children's book. Like it's pretty small.
The one from Tethered is pretty small. The Lone Wolf Custom Gear one is quite a bit bigger.
Is it really?
Okay. I've seen it and held it in hand, and it's a nice unit. But I mean, you got to be really into saddle hunting, and you got to be hunting a long time, I think, out of something like that. Yeah. It's a little bit bigger than the seat off of a Lone Wolf tree stand. So
I guess that
it gives
sense,
you plenty of room. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it bites into the tree well.
Yeah. Well, if you can carry it like on the meat shelf of a pack, I mean,
certainly
that then that makes sense to me because you can pin that right to the shelf itself. Maybe that's where I put my sticks usually when I'm carrying them out. Put your bag, back over top of it. That might work pretty well. That might be what I do this year.
I can hear the gears turning from here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I might do that.
Coronavirus and all, you're going to go play with your pack after this Bow Beforehand podcast, and then you're going to go tinker with your pack.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to shoot. What I've been doing lately is I've got a spotlight, a battery-powered, spotter, and then I put a headlamp on. So I put the spotter out by the target so I can shoot at night. I put the headlamp on. It works pretty well.
That's a good idea.
Sweet.
What are you shooting? You're shooting a recurve, a longbow? What do you got?
This year so last year I shot a longbow. This year I'm shooting a bivouac backland recurve. It's like a 54 inch recurve, which is pretty short. But like I was telling you guys before, with the longer bows in the saddle, it's super hard to maneuver just with so much length. So I'm excited. I actually just got it in today, shot it a little bit. But yeah, excited to try that out in the woods.
And Jared, what are you shooting?
I just got last year's.
Jared, come closer to the mic. I can't hear you.
How about now?
A little better, but.
How about now?
Much better.
Is it?
Still only okay.
This is the okayest podcast, so it's okay.
maybe I'll switch into my switch to a different headphones or something. But I'm shooting a Prime CC5 this year. It's not set up at all because I haven't been able to get out to a bow shop just to make sure everything's good. Because when I drew it back the other day, somehow the darn thing I over-rotated the cam. So I pulled it back in my kitchen, right? And I've got it at full draw, and I'm testing out the let off. And all of a sudden, I start to let down, and the whole bowstring goes limp, like completely limp. With the cams all the way back yet.
That's
So at that point, I go, honey, can you come here a second? She goes running down. She's like, what? What's wrong? I'm like, you need to help me, or else this thing's gonna go off like a whip crack. So she actually started turning the cams a little bit, and it freed back up, and I let down. But yeah, that was a little scary.
That's freaking scary.
I haven't even shot it yet. Mm-hmm.
I would have struggled with that. My wife wouldn't have known what to do. She'd be like, "But do what? Do what? Do what? What do you want me to do?" She'd been terrified. She doesn't handle that stuff well.
No, she did great.
Mechanical failures aren't fun either.
No.
Oh, that's a freaky one too. And I like that. My first reaction when he told me, I just laughed at him. It just sounds hilarious. Now that I know everybody's okay.
No, but yeah, that's the benefit of hunting with each other your whole lives. Greg and I are making up for some of that time that we didn't have growing up together, but we're getting to know each other pretty well these days.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a buddy too that I've known since kindergarten, and him and I, we hunted and fished. We'd go up to his parents' place up by Rhinelander all the time and go fishing, and I could tell stories about him all the time, and as well he could me too, give him some bad ideas to do stuff with the car that maybe we shouldn't have done in the backwoods. So I know how that is. You got a pal that they know what you're thinking most of the time, and you know what they're thinking, or you know what they're going to do. So it's pretty fun that way. And I'm getting to learn Eric's mannerisms here pretty well. So
pretty predictable. Hey, real quick, I will say though, for those listening, we got maybe like 10, 15 minutes left or whatever. If you want to call in, the lines are open. They're hot. So if you have questions for the BOWGA guys, James and Jared, or Greg and I, or you just want to like join in because you're like cabin fever, you're sick of social isolation, and you want to talk to some hunters, the lines, the number's on the screen there. So I'm just gonna call it out there real quick. If I see you call in, I'll do the ring sound and we'll bring you on.
Yeah, don't be shy, but don't crank call us, or we will put your number up on the sex offender awareness list somewhere.
Right. That is our official threat.
They actually might warrant that list.
I know a couple people popped in. Cody, Jeff, Trevor, any of you folks want to call in? Byron, who else is on here? Or Doug.
Do you know these people?
No, I mean, like, I know one of them, Jeff, we know well. I know mostly all these people, but not in person. Trevor, I've met in person.
Okay.
It's like this community, you know, like you get to know these folks.
Oh, yeah.
We get a lot of people that call in regularly and add value and ask good questions. We have people that we've never heard from before at all that call in. We talked to Caterpillar that one time from California. I think he like called in and said yeehaw. And we're like, we like this guy. And now he's a fan. A listener. I don't know, fan might be too extreme, but we sent him some stickers the other day, so.
Whatever it takes, man. I like that.
Yeah. Well, we're all in this community together, and we got to do what we can to help support each other, even if it's just words of encouragement every once in a while.
Right.
You know, that's what's important about it, you know, and try to preach a little bit about conservation and doing the right thing. It's all good for us.
Yeah, super important right now, especially. The conservation, they're doing the right thing. Everybody's watching. And so, to have you guys out here, you know, kind of encouraging people to do the right thing, that's a big deal. That goes a long way.
Absolutely. Are you guys doing any other out-of-state hunts this season? Are you, what are your plans for this year?
Yeah. So, we've been debating. This isn't settled. This isn't settled right now. So we're looking at doing a bear hunt, either up in kind of the UP, like the western UP of Michigan or Ontario. We're also looking at doing this the North Manitou hunt out here in Michigan. But it sounds like a lot of people are doing that. Do you guys know what that is?
No.
Manitou Islands?
Yeah, there's every year a handful of people are.
Is it a draw?
I don't think it is right now. Once they get a certain amount of people, it'll become one. But I shouldn't be telling everybody this, I guess. But apparently,
I'm not cutting it.
Yeah, I know. That's fine. You can keep it in. So a handful of people get to hunt the whole island, which is, I don't remember how many miles, but how many miles wide. And basically, they drop you off in a boat for a week, and then they come back and pick you up. It's out in Lake Michigan.
That's cool.
So, yeah, I mean, it's November, Lake Michigan, so it's choppy, and sometimes they're late to pick you up. And these are deer there are deer that are old, that get pretty old on the island there. And the crazy thing is, there is no. I'm getting the wrong end.
No, that's a caller.
Okay,
we're gonna bring him in. We'll just. Hey, Doug, you're live on the Where to Hunt podcast. First time ever. First time caller, long time listener.
I called in once before.
Maybe you did call in
on some anniversary show.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
I just know you typically record on Tuesday nights also, so it's rare that I'd hear from you. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah. Well, I actually saw that you guys were live, so what I did is I just brought in the audio from your show into my show, and we listened to you guys for a while.
Dude, that's pretty freaking cool.
Awesome.
It's like
my show had
all over again.
It's like podcast on
my show had
podcast on
nothing going on
podcast.
tonight.
Holy crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Hey, so what are James and Jared doing to get ready for the hunting season right now? That might be a good thing to talk about.
Well, I'll start. I feel like right now, the three things that I'm doing. I'm shooting a ton.
What are you gonna leave me to do?
I don't know. I'm giving you all the crap. Like, I'm getting all the good ones. So shooting, obviously you got to just be shooting all the time. A lot of times guys are getting new bows either in the winter or they're coming in now if they have ordered them. So getting used to your bow, which is what I was telling, like I said before, what I've been doing today. Tinkering with your gear, like we've talked about already. And the third one, which, Jared, maybe it's time you start doing this, is exercising and kind of training for it. Jared, I've noticed you've been putting on some pounds. I'm just encouraging you. Right. You've got all of us support you in this. All here, but it's an intervention. This is actually what this podcast is. It's an intervention about
a live intervention. That's a bold move.
That is a bold move. But interventions always work. So here you go.
That's funny.
Those are my three. Jared, you got to go, and you need at least three.
I'll try, but I am not shooting my bow because I can't shoot it yet. But to kind of go off what James is also doing, I am tinkering with my new pack. I want to make sure that thing is slick, tricked, ready to go. I don't like anything hanging off, clinking, clanking. One of my big things is loose straps. James knows that very well. I hate when straps are loose, so I need to be able to pack up my gear quick, efficiently, and quietly. So that's something I practice pretty regularly.
Jared, you're a Marine, right?
Yeah, I was a prior Marine. Yeah.
So that makes sense.
So
Is that why you're such a? Is that why you're so? You put the Was that why you're so adamant about the straps? I was gonna make fun of you.
I think that's where it stems from. Just because, you're hunting an animal who's got incredible sight and incredible hearing. So being able to get into your spot quietly and effectively needs to be paramount. At least in my eyes, that's why.
Right.
So anything that I can tie up and tighten up so it's not getting snagged on anything, it's not being loud, that's what I try to focus on. So having that all set up, and then I guess planning where I want to go for even, like, obviously turkey hunting next month, but also in the fall. I'm already starting to look at spots that I want to go, maybe put a trail cam in for the summer. In places that I want to go scout. So it's never too late to start your next hunting season. I know everyone kind of knows that phrase, but those are the three things that I would be doing.
Well, Doug, that's a good question.
I was going to ask him. Yeah, I was going to ask him if they were doing any virtual scouting right now as well. I know a lot of guys start doing that this time of year too, so it's good to know.
It's continuous.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll let you get back to your show. We'll talk to you later, Eric.
Thanks, Doug. We got another caller behind you here. We got Cody Jenkins Cody, where are you calling from here? Galesburg, Illinois. Hey, Cody, you're live on the Word Hunt podcast. What kind of questions you got for the guys?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going tonight?
Hey.
Hey, just want to say I'm fans of both you guys' podcasts. I appreciate you guys creating content. And I know that the BOWGA guys are big on the ground hunters.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, how do you guys become confident on the ground? Are you setting kind of elevated where you guys can see? Because that's my biggest thing. I just have no confidence on the ground. So how do you guys go about that?
Yeah, so this is one that I took up especially. I had an issue with the stand, kind of broke. I fell out. And I'm like, screw that. I'm not doing that anymore. So I had my daughter had just been born. I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm going to just take some time. And that was actually the same year that that's when I started hunting from the ground. Our big thing is actually we get pretty low. What we'll do is look for like a blowdown or something. And you can usually make a quick blind in there, clear out the leaves on the ground, and we'll sit pretty low, but give ourselves enough cover to get on our knees to shoot.
Okay.
And some guys
that
do it
makes
when
sense.
they sit out there. Yeah, some guys will do it when they're sitting out there and they'll they'll get a chair out and they'll just work on like no movement at all. You sit real still. There's a guy on YouTube that does that. But my style at least has been is stay low and kind of, you know, crouch up and go on your knees when it's time to shoot pretty well.
Yeah, I've always felt like I needed to stand just so I could have the visual, but
sure.
I guess sitting in a low chair is what I tried the other time. So I guess on your knees would be a little bit better. At least you would have maybe a foot that you could raise up and down just to get the visual. Because that's the biggest thing for me on the ground. It's just the visual is so subpar compared to in a stand. But I'm really intrigued, and there's a lot of places that I could see having success on the ground.
Yeah.
It's just me having the confidence to do it. And I think over time it could grow on me, you know. So it's something I'm going to try, but.
Cody, I
appreciate the on the knees tip.
I was going to say, I shot a doe from 10 yards on the ground with my bow with like a, you know, I'm thinking about, I don't obviously have the camera here, but those that are going to listen later, left foot with the foot on the ground and the knee kind of bent. And then my right knee was on the ground and I was able to draw back and do it that way from the ground. It was just a doe, but there's a lot of adrenaline in that shot just based on being that close. It was nuts.
It makes you excited. Yeah. I mean, you are. Although you can't, the standing method works too. I shot one a couple years ago with Jared. We were out, he was somewhere else, but I literally had these two giant oak trees. I just literally stood behind. I kind of had an idea where the deer were coming from. Stood behind it and shot one right on the ground that way. So I mean, like a lot of time, I think the big thing is just to practice at different angles. You know, like I was saying before, shooting a longbow, you've got such a long axle or tip to tip. That you got to really be conscious of, like trying to get that off the ground. But yeah, I mean, if you practice in a ton of different scenarios, once you go out there, you can just kind of find the best spot and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've killed a couple of does off the ground, and I've always tried to find like an elevated spot, like a ridge or something where I'm up off the ground. And a lot of time it's where I have a designated stand hung, and then I'm on some public somewhere, and I don't have my pack-in set with me and the wind's changed or something, and I'm hunting morning, evening. So I'll just go on a whim, and I've had success doing that, but I'm kind of hunting this marshy area where there's very little elevation. So I'm going to have to try maybe do you guys ever like try to use decoys or anything like that during the rut to just deter them from looking at you if you're on the ground? Or
so we have before, actually. One of my more memorable hunts is Jared and I, when we had to be 15, 16 years old. We had this giant plastic, decoy that we haul out. It's actually gun season. We're just grabbing the thing through public land in Michigan. We had a one shot, but we dragged this deer pea and this rope behind us. We're literally halfway up the tree stand, and a buck, it was this little 6 point that we let walk, but it was really cool. I mean, that was like the first time we were ever trying a decoy, and it worked the first time. That being said, since then, I just did not have a lot of luck with decoys in Michigan.
I can see that, yeah.
Just pressure is so heavy that you almost just want to be silent. But like in a place like you in Illinois, I could see that, being awesome.
If you haven't heard of Montana decoys, check those guys out. We had them on a long time ago, but they make like really similar to the thing you put in the windshield of your car, that like fabric-y material that can like fold down to nothing. You just pop it up. So for a public land hunter, you can still pack that in without it being clunky and weird, and it's pretty effective.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're actually recording with him yet tonight.
Oh, really? Yeah, they're great. No way.
No, awesome. Very cool.
Well, that's great.
Guys, well,
Cody, thanks for the call.
On the line, but I appreciate you answering my question. Like I said, I enjoy both you guys' content. I know it's a struggle to create some time. It takes a lot of time and energy, but I appreciate it, and I'm going to keep enjoying your guys' show. So let someone else get on the line.
Shoot us your buck pictures when you get them this year, especially if you get one on the ground.
Yeah, same. Thank you.
Will do.
Thanks, Cody.
Well, guys, thanks for answering some caller questions. That's one of the things that sets us apart as a podcast is we do it live and we field calls. So no pranksters, luckily, this time around.
Is it wrong to say I was hoping for a prankster?
I wanted one.
I know. That would have been awesome.
Secretly, sometimes I do too, but it's funny because I collect all of that. I can see their phone number, their cell phone carrier. Like I see all the stuff. So I dare you, maybe I shouldn't say that, but We'll just have the listeners. We'll just stick you on the listeners, and then good luck with your life after I give your phone number out to everybody.
There you go. Yep.
I think was it Kurt Geyer that said that? Kurt Geyer's like, no, just put him on the sex offender registry list, and then we've gotten 0 since then.
Yeah, that's a good. I would not want to be on that list.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I just found out my neighbor's on that list. How
Your
cool is that?
your neighbor?
Yeah, like next door neighbor.
To the right or to the left?
If you're looking at my house,
yeah,
to the left.
Oh, okay. I guess I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, for those that didn't get to call in or couldn't have an opportunity, even if they have stuff going on at home or kids or whatever, Jared and James, remember to come back to the feed and answer any questions that came through and respond to folks that way too, because there's some folks asking some questions there too. But we'll wrap up. It sounds like you guys got another podcast to get to. I like to put my daughter to bed at nighttime, so that's what I like to do after 8 o'clock. But let's end with you already mentioned the memorable hunt. Where do folks find you? You have a pretty unique name. I don't think it'd be difficult, but where should they be consuming your content? Is there anything you want to leave anybody with?
Jared, you're the best at this. I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, sure. Our main platform is Instagram. It's where we share most of our content right now, but you can also check us out at BOWGAHunting.com. We've got a good blog platform on there that we release most of the content that we have for that month, and then even more in depth each week. So tune in for that because we're coming up on turkey season. We've got a lot of good stuff and a lot of good guests on the podcast coming up. So if you're looking for maybe just refresher information or just some new information on some like tactics and strategies, come check us out. We'd really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, that's super cool. Looks like we share some listeners too, so that's great. Greg, any parting thoughts for you on your end there?
None whatsoever, other than Jimmer, you better get better so you can go out and turkey hunt and not have a barking call. Yeah. And Jared, shoot straight, get that bow tuned up. Are you going with the boomstick, or are you going to try and get that bow set up for turkey?
I'm going.
No, you know what I'm going to say.
James will cut my head off if I try to go with
a
shotgun.
I just make fun of him. I'm like, you're BOWGA. You can't shoot. You can't go turkey hunting with a shotgun.
Well, you could.
That's not on brand, man.
But if it comes down to it, last day of the hunt, and they're not coming in, there's no hurt in bringing the boomstick.
There's none at all. No, it's just that I have to find reasons to give Jared a hard time, and sometimes I have to really reach for it.
That's great. You guys are good shit. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be on our show, and maybe someday we'll join you on yours, and it'd be great to sync up sometime too if you guys are back in Wisconsin, wherever over in Michigan. So